I believe we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to First and Nole. We are trying this out a little bit different. I'm Ariya Massoudi, Curt Weiler, Roberto Aguayo. I'm sure those of you watching remember him and his garnet and gold playing days in the second round pick of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Guys, this is going to be a fun episode because the best weekend of the year, football wise, just happened, and Florida State did exactly what we wanted to do. 45-3 over the Miami Hurricanes. Just let's go through thoughts real quick because that was as satisfying a win as I think this program and its fan base has had in a long time.
Yeah, I'm glad I brought up the possibility. I remember the end of the pod, we were almost done last week, and I kind of brought up there's like a non-zero chance that this gets like ridiculously out of hand and Miami like quits. And I mean, we saw all that happen. I mean, Mario Cristobal can be the recruiter he is. He can have John Ruiz's checkbook to help him out in that regard. And that was a real sobering reminder or showing, maybe demonstration to him of how far he has to go. I mean, Florida State was far and away the better team. I mean, we'll compare it, I'm sure, to 2 years ago to Miami beating down Florida State down there. I think the difference is that Florida State team, the talent level had fallen off. They still fought pretty hard even without their head coach there, and just were totally outmanned by a pretty talented Miami team. This Miami team on paper is more talented than Florida State. If you look at like the talent composite rankings, and Florida State still, with its mentality, with its culture that Mike Norvell has built, I mean, just about like ruined Miami's year. I mean, with that one, with the fan base for sure. I mean, that's the one game they show up for, and they were gone by halftime, just about all of them.
Yeah, I mean that was crazy to see. On that crazy in a good way. 45-3. I mean, we haven't Miami like that, especially down there like that in a while. So last time we had a 7.5 spread like that high was back in 2012. So it's good to see the Noles came on top and set their dominance heading into the second to the last part of the season.
You know what's funny is like middle of the second quarter, fans started to go home. It started to look like a normal Miami home game. It was like, oh, so this is what it looks like most weeks. And it was because Florida State had opened a can on the Canes. And guys, I mean, there's so many different, I think, angles to how well Florida State played. From the fast start that we all had talked about, right? Like we had said, you want to go there and you don't want to give that team any hope. Check that off the box. You hit the big pass to Pokey Wilson, Jordan Travis playing well, and your offense comes out with a bang. Curt, you were in attendance. Just what did that do to set the tone in the stadium? Because it felt like, the crowd also reacted pretty loud in FSU's favor when that happened. It seemed like an entire statement and announcement from Florida State that they were here and they meant business.
Yeah, the crowd was loud there at the beginning. I mean, it was the sellout they said it was. It was a packed house. It was a pro Miami crowd in the early going there, and then that first series when Florida State got the ball, yes, it was loud. And I think, frankly, if I still think in the long run, Florida State would have kind of showed itself to be the better team. But I think the game may have been a bit more competitive, especially in the early going. I mean, if Miami had gotten that 3-and-out right away, I think the fan base thought it did. They had the late PI flag to extend the drive. It looked like it was going to be a Florida State 3-and-out, and then after that, it's Jordan Travis to Pokey Wilson. I mean, a beautiful throw, a remarkable catch. If you haven't seen the still frame, the picture FSU tweeted out from its account of that Pokey catch, I mean, ridiculous. And yeah, it was just the statement was set from there. And I mean, really after that, I mean, Miami had the field goal and its scripted drive, the first drive, and then 3-and-out, and then some plays mixed in, but I mean, a whole bunch of 3-and-outs after that. It was the all around type of butt whipping you wanted if you were a Florida State fan. Probably pretty cathartic.
Roberto, from your playing days, man, I mean, you guys did this often, and it was 2013 season especially. You didn't give teams much hope, and it was quick. It was fast. It's almost like a merciless death. Very quickly, you kind of get to the point. What does that do, not just for your locker room, for the Seminoles, but what does that do to the opponent?
Well, I mean, beating these guys the way we did, especially a rival, a Florida, Miami, a Clemson. When you play those guys, it's a rivalry, and when you can beat them by, you know, this bad, how well we dominated, it's just that extra confidence boost, the bragging rights, the it'll go down in history when we look at FSU Miami, what went down, in the years that we played, and just to see him dominate this, well, especially in Miami, it gives you excitement, it gives you energy, and I know that locker room was excited after the game, happy. I mean, you could just see it on the sidelines when Jordan Travis was saying bye to the fans. That's the confidence, like, we had back in 2013, where we're like, all right, well, it's just another day in the office. We beat them, by 30, 40 points, this team, and we're ready to go for the next team. So it brought flashbacks of that 2013 year, of the years that we were there. But this it was good to see this type of domination, especially in state rival, and obviously Florida State fans hate Miami, so it was good to see. We have bragging rights for a year.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the cinematic recap FSU puts out, I highly recommend those all the time. They're really well done. I think this one's particularly, y'all will particularly enjoy that one.
Yeah.
Well, offensively, guys, let's talk about the performance overall, because it's an FSU offense that consistently has been able to move the football, but they haven't executed situationally. And that was something all three of us wanted to see them do better, not just against Miami, but the second half of the season. And against Georgia Tech, they didn't do it again consistently. Against Miami, it felt like they went down. I think they threw one pick. Jordan might have thrown one pick on a deep ball. But other than that, when the Noles got into the red zone, they did their job and they finished.
Yeah, I mean, it's frankly probably one of Florida State's more vanilla games all season from an offensive play calling standpoint. I mean, I don't know why Miami defensive coordinator Kevin Steele admitted Monday, talking to the media, that FSU ran counter. I think there's a pretty basic counter play on, I think it was 32 of their 70 plays. They just kept running the same play, and Miami probably knew it was coming a lot of the time and could not stop it. I mean, that's a credit to Florida State's offensive line. It's a credit to the running backs, even if they didn't get Trayshawn Ward back like we thought they might. It's a credit to, Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins for kind of identifying, hey, this is working. Why should we go away from it until it's not working? And it worked for 60 minutes.
Exactly. If the play call is working, keep running it until they can figure it out. And it looks like they weren't able to figure it out. And you try to make the game as simple as possible. And that's what they did. If they're not able to stop it, keep running it. Run it again. Run it again. Run it again. And really vanilla. And honestly, these are the type of games you want to see where it's almost boring. It's almost like, all right, well, we're going to get back on the field and we're going to just run the same simple plays, and we're going to drive down the field. And it's just like a 7-on-7, just, pitch and catch, handoff, run. Everything was working for us. I mean, this is where you like to see, where you set it in autopilot and just keep going. I mean, we were up 28-3 right before half. Yep. So
31-3 at half.
31-3. Yeah. So that's, going into halftime up 31-3, you're just going in there. You're not even worried about what coach is going to say. You go you're like, what's for snacks? Am I going to eat some, PBJ, some orange slices? Maybe check my phone. Everything's rolling. That's the feeling that you want to have, not the stress where you're going in the tunnel and in halftime and you're like, oh man, we're down 2 touchdowns. Like, oh, what do we got to do? So it's a good feeling, and it's good to see this team have that feeling going into the locker room, coming back out, and just overall dominating the game.
It bears mentioning, though, that was not Mike Norvell's halftime mindset. If you watch that cinematic recap, I think his message to the team at halftime was, make those boys quit tonight, or make them quit tonight. And if you watch the second half, I think they did.
Yeah.
Maybe play a little hangman on the sideline, Roberto.
Right?
Hey, it's Syracuse week. That was Syracuse, wasn't it?
I think
I knew I'd
so.
get a
Yeah.
laugh out of him. That was that's
Yeah.
one of the more legendary memes that went around
Yeah.
Florida State.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, all you fans watching, by the way, you remember it. I mean, was it PJ
It was
Williams that was
PJ.
down
It
there?
was PJ, and I think Terrence Brooks. They were playing, or maybe it was PJ and Darby playing hangman on the sidelines, and someone caught a pic from the stands, and it was a meme, and it went viral. And then we saw it after the game, and we are just like, man, that's too funny. But we're like, well, we were winning by like 40, so does it really matter?
Those guys were kings on campus. Remember that back in the day?
Oh,
Roberto,
yeah.
they could do whatever they wanted. Darby and PJ, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not outing them because it's been so many years now, and they're all, they're all adults now. But I'll never forget Darby being pushed by PJ in a Publix shopping cart down Westcott. I mean, just down the hill, being shot. I was going to class, and there's Darby in a Publix shopping cart, and they're just motoring down. I mean, all these kids are walking around on Landis, and it was like, what is happening right now?
Dude, hey man, when we're 18 to 21-year-olds, like we were having a great time, we were good, we were, winning, and like it's just we had a good time. So it was a good, 4 years while we were there, and that's what you want to see these guys have. You see the camaraderie, you see them, bonding. They panned to the sidelines, everyone was happy. That's the feeling that you want when you put in the hard work, you grind and you execute. That's what you want to. That's how you want every game to go and end. And if they can keep like they got a glimpse of this feeling, 45-3 against Miami. We haven't beat them that bad since 1997. So, let's keep it rolling. Let's finish out the season strong and shoot. Depending on who we keep next year, I mean, it's like I said it earlier in the podcast a couple weeks ago, where it's like you never know. This could be like the 2012 team, coming into the 2013 year. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think too, when we looked at this game, we thought Florida State could dominate, right? Like all three of us said, there's a chance that
they should dominate.
Right, on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Good teams do what they're supposed to do,
mm-hmm.
and Florida State did that, and they did it quick. And then we talked about, first quarter coming out and punching Miami in the mouth. You didn't want the Canes to build any sort of momentum in that stadium, right? It's the one game a year. That stadium does get pretty loud, right? Like we joke about it, but when they show up for the FSU game, it's a good atmosphere, and it feels like you're in the club and the music's playing with the DJ, and the 305 is coming to life. But they had that chance, I think. Miami was driving a little bit, and Florida State did such a good job defensively of holding them to a field goal. And I think that was a swinging point in the game early because defensively FSU played very well. They just didn't let Miami's offense get into a rhythm either.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen both the last 2 weeks how much Florida State missed Fabian Lovett. I mean, I think he's I know Miami's offensive line was and is a little banged up. I mean, obviously the quarterback situation. I mean, I don't know why they frankly played Tyler Van Dyke in that game at all. It almost was kind of gross negligence with how clearly not close to 100% he was. But yeah, I mean, they did exactly what you wanted, and I think that was probably the best defensive game of Adam Fuller's tenure. And I mean, there have been some good ones. I think there have been really promising halves, maybe even really promising like 3/4 segments. That to me was far and away, I think, the most complete 4-quarter showing, and that it came against a rival. I mean, I think speaks to a lot about state of the program, and I think the defense they've built.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but in Norvell's, I think it was his post game or one interview, he said that, or no, after the game, he texted Jamie Robinson that play that keeps being played, where he sacks the quarterback. I forget, one of the three that came in, and he just like tosses him like he's just get out of here, dude. Like you're not on our level. Your whole team, the Miami, is just not us. And that play is going to be one of the highlights for years to come. When in 2030, when there's a whole new team here and recruits and everything, that's going to be played. So when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I mean, that is going to be on the highlight reel. That's going to be like the what's his name? 13.
Against Sanford Samuels or Marvin Jones?
No, Kylie linebacker. I can't remember his name right now. Where he hits the wide receiver and he like flips in the rain.
Yeah, Stanford Samuel Sr.
So I mean, that would always play when I was getting recruited and coming in. So that's awesome. So it's exciting.
Even the Nigel Bradham hit, which was was not targeting.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, I mean, he baptized Ja'Curry Brown.
Yeah.
The Brown baptism, man.
Yeah.
That was something.
I think too, guys, like offensively, I was hoping to see in this game FSU be able to run the ball effectively, right? And we talked, they would do that's the identity of, I guess, Norvell's offense, wherever he's been, is being able to run the ball. There have been times where we felt like maybe FSU got away from it in some of their bigger games. And it felt like against Miami, he was going to make a point, Norvell, to physically try and abuse that Miami defense up front. And they ran counters. They ran, guards pulling. It was really fun to watch because they ran for over 200 yards. But Trey Benson, just the way he runs, guys, I mean, how much fun is it to watch that kid go? Because you're not going to take him down on first contact.
Yeah, and I mean, how much do you think that meant for him doing that against his former coach? That's, I mean, it was he definitely. I think it was, Duquesne game was a really impressive debut for him. Obviously, it was Duquesne, but he definitely feels like someone who's really come into his own as the season has gone on. I think he still leads the country in broken tackles forced per carry. I think he averages about a half broken tackle every time he rushes the ball. He's just kind of a broken tackle machine. I mean, you come at him with arm tackles, it's not going to end well, and he just runs so hard. I mean, the run where he his first touchdown where he kind of pinballs off the one defender and rolls outside, and then the run that was almost his second touchdown, I think was originally called a touchdown and overturned, where he just keeps turning his legs and spins on time, rolls on top of someone. I mean, he just Miami wanted no part of him, and I particularly enjoyed his smirk in Mario's general direction when they saw each other on the field after the game.
Hey, Berto, can you shout out Bernard right here? I mean, that's a fan that's excited.
Bernard is part of the whole Seminole tribe. I mean, it's so happy. You always, when you beat Miami, it's just exciting. It's all the trash talking, oh, Miami this, Miami that. And the way we beat them, it's not like we beat them by a touchdown or a field goal. It was complete dominance. I mean, you kind of almost, you don't really feel bad, but I look at it vice versa, being on their team and just, they're just we can't stop these guys. Run, pass, they looked helpless out there. And, hopefully they can turn it around because, we want to see this rivalry, be, neck and neck. But at the end of the day,
I don't think many people are going to agree with you on that one, Roberto. I get what you're saying. As a journalist, I get what you're saying. But
beat their ass.
No, you're right.
I have to change this now podcast to vulgar. Dang, sorry.
Hot takes, baby, hot takes.
You hide this ACC network, move it. No, come on now.
But no, I mean, it's we dominated it. Even on the stat sheets, on the game comparisons, we dominated every stat. 454 total yards versus 188. I mean, we even put Rodemaker in. It's good to get the backups work. You couldn't have scripted it any better. Now, like I said, the guys got a taste of it. Now let's take it into Syracuse and the rest of the season. I mean, we're trending. You like to see the trending in the right direction. Yeah,
we are. Bernie, you got to show me how you do that spear, by the way, on the keyboard. That's clutch. It looks like he's got the spear. The fire emoji, but no doubt we got one
Dylan
more.
Gibbons today. Can I read you this quote from Dylan Gibbons?
Yeah, absolutely.
He talked about just kind of he frankly kind of it speaks to what we were just talking about. He got asked basically about wearing Miami down, and he said, if I'm running at someone full speed, and I know 3 plays ago they were coming at me full speed, and now they're backing up or trying to give me a little move or something like that, that's the best feeling. To know that my body boys have been working, to know that I'm opening up bigger holes for the backs and for the receivers and the quarterback. I mean, that's what that game was.
Yep.
Yeah,
Miami didn't want the smoke.
Right.
Miami did not want the smoke.
Where this O-line was a few years ago, I mean,
Oh yeah.
Their attitudes change. Is it the most talented O-line you'll find in the country? Probably not. But you've got a bunch of guys that have bought in. They've battled a lot of injuries up front. They're down a couple guys that could be starters for the season, and you got to give credit to Atkins, man. Coach Atkins has been incredible. Give credit to the kids who have bought in. It's been impressive. The O-line is better than just serviceable right now. It's a decent O-line, and I think that's a credit to everything that Mike Norvell, Coach Atkins, and this program has done to move that thing forward. You don't just run for over 200 yards a game without having an offensive line that can block guys.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
One more. We got a question coming in from YouTube. Terry, I think I want to say it's Vaughn. I'm gonna go with Vaughn. If it's not Vaughn, I apologize. Berto, looks like the question.
It's a good question. I think he is. I've talked to him. I talk to him, on a weekly basis and ask him, how he's doing. And ever since I want to say the last game where he missed a couple of kicks, he's been trending in the right direction. In practice, he's been 16 for 17, 17 for 17, and just walking him through. Not walking him through, but just being there to talk to him and kind of trying to pick his brain and see where he's at, because, like I said, is it really something that we need to look into, or, is it mechanic? Is it more mental? There's a lot of, things that we can look at. But the way he's been kicking, it's he's made all his kicks. I think if it were to come down and we needed a clutch kick, I'd trust in him. I'd send him out there, and that's all the conversation, and Coach Norvell has a bird's eye view there at practice every day and seeing how he's hitting the ball. But like I said, it's the communication between Norvell and him and the special teams coach, and, understanding how he's comfortable, seeing body mannerisms, and really saying, okay, I'm comfortable from 35 and in, whatever side, I'm good to go. And that gives, Coach Norvell the confidence, hey, we just got to get it there. And if we do, we can send him out there. So we'll see in these next, couple games to finish out the season, where his number is going to be called, whether it's in the second quarter or in the third quarter. It might not be just in the fourth quarter. Every point is valuable. And like I said, once you enter the red zone, you want at least 3 points. So we're going to need all the points we can get. But I do believe in him, trust in him, and he'll make the clutch kick.
Big a deal do you think it has been for Ryan? I mean, as for a guy who goes going through the struggles, that he's maybe had some low pressure kicks of late, especially, and kind of in games where you're not winning or losing probably based on the result of your kick. It's just kind of a bonus, like it was against Miami, like it was against Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need those low pressure kicks. The you're up by 21 or it's an extra point rather than coming out and ripping a 52-yarder. Those are little confidence boosters. I would call everything inside 30 a stat booster, a confidence booster. You just go out there and trust the process, and that would carry on into a much longer field goal later in the game. And, as a coach, you kind of and this not just for kickers, but for running backs, wide receivers, any position where, you're comfortable, you're driving the ball. Maybe someone that hasn't been really, and especially quarterbacks, the play calls, especially starting the game, you want to have a couple, short completions for them to get into a rhythm, because you don't want them, a run, it's 2nd and 9, and then you throw a short pass or you try to risk it, and then it's a 3rd and 9, and now the quarterback says oh, well, I got to get the first down. I got to force it, for 9 yards. it's all game plan. And for me, just like a quarterback, I would try to build them a rhythm, a short pass where maybe a screen, maybe, a little dump to the wide receiver, or 4 or 5 yard pass, and let the wide receivers, work and get the yardage. Same for a kicker. If I'm wanting to build them confidence, I'm trying to score, I'm trying to get as close as I can. But at the end of the day, you've seen them in practice. I would communicate a lot with my specialists, because I think specialists, want to have that communication and that connection with the head coach and the special teams coach, just to build that connection and trust. So because we're all one team coming out there on game day. So if we all know and understand how each other is feeling, that's just more confidence in the decisions you make, whether to send them out or, go for it, whatever you got to do.
Ariya's muted. All right, you're muted.
Oh, I'm back. I'm trying to produce.
There you go. There you go. I see you. You're getting a little shade thrown your way.
No, it's a childhood friend. Shout out Gary. He knows me. He called me Sudi. It's a old nickname. So likes my plant. Gary, I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna get your advice next time on how to decorate the background here. But
I might call you Sudi from now.
You can. Totally can. You do what you want. But yeah, I mean, what a game too, guys. 45-3. This is what we wanted to see, because it's a bigger picture too, right? Like, it's not about beating Miami. That's great for the week. That's great for the year. Where this program is trying to go right now, I think is as important, if not more important, than winning a single game. And it's about attitude. We talked about this last week, Roberto. You're playing the man in the mirror, right? You're playing a faceless opponent. Obviously, when you see the U, it gets a little personal. But this team came out there and they played the game. They didn't play the opponent. They were able to control their emotions against Miami. And they cleaned up a lot of the things, too, that we had wanted to see them clean up. Yeah, they had that one turnover. I think we live with it. It's pretty much a punt when, it plays as a punt when you're going deep and they pick it off inside the 5-yard line. But other than that, low penalties. They ran the football well. They were fundamentally sound. They created turnovers. We've been asking for takeaways since the beginning half of the season, and they did that too.
4 turnovers for Miami. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think Mike Gravel said it well. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was a complete game. I think it's a good way of putting it. Like, it's not that there's always room for improvement. You're probably never going to play the perfect game.
Yeah,
I mean, in all phases. I mean, we talked about the offense, we talked about the defense. I mean, special teams. Obviously, Ryan hitting the 1 field goal. Both of Mastromanno's punts. Both of those 2 first half punts pinned like inside the 5. One of them leads to a shank punt. The other one leads to a pick. I mean, yeah, it was, I think, complete game is a good way of saying it.
Complete game, all 3 phases. But you're right, Curt. Like, it's hard to play the perfect game, right? You're going to make mistakes, but have those to a minimum. And if they are, you play the percentages, right? You say, on that where we threw a pick on the 5-yard line, right? I know the quarterback room is getting in there and say it's a 3rd down, long, like, hey, if you throw it, we risk it at worst. Yeah, you throw a pick, but it's on their 5. Basically, like, we punted. So in reality, it's not really that big of a deal, and you could put it down as a mistake. But overall, all 3 phases played well. They all responded. We didn't hold back. I think this is just as close as to a perfect game that you could play, right? Now, I would like to see this, the way we play, like we said, the opponent has no face. We're playing against ourselves, right? Mistake, right? No flags, no false starts, no holding. Like, there's going to be holding, there's going to be, but if we don't have false starts or, sort of these, bonehead penalties where we're shooting ourselves in the foot, taking that into a much more dominant team, that's what's going to keep us in the game, in the 3rd quarter, in the 4th quarter, and allow us to maybe win by a touchdown or 2. But, if I'm Coach Norvell, I'm showing these guys like, hey, man, we played a good, almost a perfect game, all 3 phases. Like, if we can do this, we're in contention with anybody in the country. And, at the end of the day, it'll be a couple plays that decide the game. So, it was exciting to see this because we haven't seen this in a while.
All right, so let's Curt, go ahead, and then we'll move forward to bigger.
Yeah, I think the last kind of thing to touch on here. I mean, I think doing that on what was a huge recruiting weekend for Miami, a lot of targets of theirs and commits of theirs. There's some targets that you're also trying to land commitments from. I know I laughed at, I think Brandon Innes, a 5-star receiver from Miami, committed to Ohio State. He tweeted, I think, like someone was giving him crap for being at the game because he was there on a visit, and I think he was basically like, "Oh, the pregame was fun though." Like it was like that was about all he had to brag about or enjoy from the game. But yeah, I mean, I think that statement could be a big deal. I know Mike Norvell said yesterday that I think recruits have taken notice. I think was the words he said of kind of what happened there. And I mean, considering the fact that Florida State's behind Miami and Florida right now in the recruiting rankings, I think they need that momentum.
I mean, shoot, if I'm telling the recruits, I'm like, I mean, why not Florida State, man? And Miami hasn't been good since I don't even know when. So, I mean, they live on the 90s and the 80s. The U. It's all about the U and the 30 for 30. Yeah, but that's almost like 20, 30 years ago. Like, we got to think in the here and now. We're the most recent national champion winners. Like, Florida, won in 2008 and 2010 or
was it
one of the
6 and 8 or
6 and 8, whatever. Yeah. They like, so, but either way, like going out there and beating them in their home field and their recruits there, like, oh, we want to come to Miami and seeing, because all their friends, the guys they play with, it's that in-state rival where it's like, I'm going to go to Miami, I'm going to go to FSU, we're going to play each other, and it's like it helps the recruiting where we can convince a guy, maybe a 4-star or 5-star that's committed to Miami, and be like, hey, you decommit, you see how Florida State beat you guys, like, do you want to be a part of that for the next couple of years? Like, you have a first-year head coach. It's going to take time to rebuild. Coach Norvell has been here for a while. You see how he's been playing, and you see the domination that he had against you guys. Like, why don't you come over here, be a part of this team, and we can go win a national championship?
For the first few years, Mike Norvell had to sell what FSU could become. I think now you can sell what they're showing up to be on the field, and that makes a difference. I agree with you.
Got another comment. Finally, Conceal. Is this what you thought we looked like? I mean, I guess we know what Roberto looks like.
I was gonna say, you knew him. We're the faithless ones.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I put that comment up because I think basically goes to what you guys were just saying. Shout out to Reality Music Entertainment, by the way. Are we gonna flip some commits? I mean, you guys just talked about it. How can you not? Like, how if you're a South Florida high school football player right now, or considering the U, and everyone's throwing all this NIL at you, right? Like, oh, Ruiz can give you $1 billion, which he can't. We just saw his stock is worthless. Then that's the play, right? Come down and party in South Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, do you want to go to a stadium where you have to drive a bus to every single time, where it's 10% full most games?
Yeah.
Where against Florida State you're leaving in the second quarter? Or do you want to stay in state? Your parents can still come see you, and you got a program that is on the up and coming, right? Like, Norvell's got this thing moving, and I just Hakeem Williams, right, was from South Florida.
Yep.
That's only the first wave. I think he's talking to his boys right now. Mm-hmm. Hey, like, you can see it. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like, we just saw it. And I'm not saying that I don't think Cristobal will be a good coach there. I think Mario Cristobal is a good coach and an outstanding recruiter. I think anybody who thought it wasn't going to take them some time was naive. And that's Miami's fan base every season. And that's the nicest word I can use for it, is naive. Mm-hmm. Every offseason, they think it's a quick turnaround. And they think it's because the U was good in the 80s and early 2000s that it's just a quick fix. No. This Florida State program right now, I think, is committed to being a big-time player with the rest of the Southeast schools. And, of course, Ohio State, USC, and so on and so forth, right? But we also talked about, Curt, you and I think earlier this season, and I know Pat Burnham and Charles Fishbein are great recruiting guys, talked about you have to be able to sell tangible results to recruits. It's not just about, and maybe Roberto, you can kind of go back to when you were being recruited. It's not about, do I like the campus only? It's not about, do I think I like the coaching staff? All of those are important, yes. But it's about, can I see myself and can my family see them sending me to this school to better myself as a professional and so that I can compete for a title? And I think right now Florida State's just so much more ahead in that quest than just my 2 cents.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, your actions speak so loud. I can't hear what you're saying. There you can say, oh, we have this facility and, you can eat all this food and, this is your lounge and, blah, 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 all these cameras and you can take pictures in a chair looking cool. But at the end of the day, are you winning on the field? That's really all that matters, and yeah, initially like that's like the cherry on top, oh yeah, this is cool. And like high school recruits nowadays, like, like all that stuff. But at the end of the day, what I look what I looked at when I was getting recruited. It was, we were trending in the right direction. I'd always been a Nole. And, I looked at the recruiting class, my year and the guys that were coming in. And I was like, Coach Fisher just took over. He's built a solid, trending team. I want to be a part of this and contribute. When Jameis, committed, and I was excited. So and at the end of the day, I didn't really focus on, okay, we got to go win a national championship. We got to do this, right? It's just bonding with the guys, buying into what Coach Fisher said, and we didn't have any cancers on the team. We everyone bought in, and that's what I see in this team, where Coach Norvell has been there a couple years now, where he's weeded out the cancers, he's weeded out the guys that you don't want on a team, and only people that have been on a team or a part of it can understand and tell you that, because it does have an effect, because you got 80% of the guys that are buying in and want to win, but it's those off-season workouts or it's those practices where, oh, we got so and so late, and it's like, oh, the same guy, and like now the whole team has to run, and you're just like, it makes that 80% say like, well, why are we really working this hard when we got 20% of the guys that really don't care? And yeah, you want to keep motivating and them and telling them to, hey man, lock in. But at the end of the day, like, the cancer is going to be a cancer. As much as you can try to help, you can maybe fix like one or two, but sometimes like, hey man, like this is not who we wanted to bring in. This is not who we wanted to be a part of this team. And like, I used to hear before where it's like, you don't really want a team of all 5 stars, because 5 stars are prima donnas, right? They think like, oh, I get there, I don't have to work hard, I just have to rely on my talent. And trust me, I saw a lot of guys come in 5-star that just thought they could rely on talent, not really have to work hard, not really, could skip workouts, and they didn't pan out. And it's the 3 and the 4 stars where they go in, they grind, they work, they're in the film room, they do what the coach tells them. Those are the guys that develop into big time playmakers, and this is what you see now. So I'm excited. We'll see what couple recruits we pick up by the end of the year before the final signing day in February. But we're out of Florida, Miami. I think we're leading in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's something too, guys, that we talked about as well, was checking off the boxes of beating your rivals. I think that's within the larger scope of a season, when you want to win every game and you want to make it to the ACC title game and you want to make it back to the playoffs. Within that, you want to beat your rivals. And if you can check off one of those boxes, you're halfway there right now. You get a chance against Florida, final game of the year. So I think that's something that, Mike Norvell will be judged on. And if he can convert, 2 of 2 here on his rivals, I think that's big for his tenure. And then after, guys, you guys talk about that, Roberto, if you want to answer that next question as well that just popped up. But Curt, go ahead and talk about, being able to beat your rivals.
Yeah, I mean he's 2-1, working on would be 3-1 if he beats Florida, because obviously that 2020 Miami game he wasn't there, so you can't really count that against his record, even though he might claim it so someone else didn't have to. Yeah, I mean it is a big deal. That's frankly what did Willie Taggart in, was that Miami game, was the fact that he was 0-3 against rivals, and that in one there was a huge blown lead, in one there was the non-competitive loss to Florida, and in the other there was a really really ugly home loss to Miami. I mean that was kind of the final straw for him. But yeah, I mean talked about recruiting pitches and families. What I wanted to say on that matter right now we haven't talked about, he didn't do this for the cameras. He obviously wouldn't know the cameras are on, and he was in the moment of coaching. But I think that moment with Deuce Spann is a great kind of incidental recruiting pitch by Mike Norvell, where I mean, when Deuce Spann commits the penalty when Florida State's up big, the unnecessary roughness penalty, and Mike Norvell is on him, and he's sternly talking to him. He's angry, clearly, as it should be. And Deuce Spann takes it hard. And then you see Mike Norvell, and he talked about it yesterday, pivot from he is keeping reminding, clearly like you messed up. This is why you messed up. We can't have that. While also trying to calm him down, treating him like a person. I mean, realizing that he is a human being who has feelings and who is upset right now. And I mean, another person on the Florida State beat tweeted out that clip and I think said like, this is coaching. And a Miami player retweeted it. A current Miami player. And that to me says like, oh boy, like, because there were plenty of those similar things where Cristobal could have been caught doing the same thing on the sidelines, and you didn't see any clips of Mario Cristobal doing that. It's not to say he didn't. It's not to say he didn't do it behind closed doors later, but I mean that is not an intentional recruiting pitch, but an incidental one to say the least.
I mean, that's an art. If we're gonna really like examine that's an art to knowing your players, right? How to coach. Every player's coached different, right? A lot of guys want to be, like learn better and understand when you yell at them a little bit and get in their face. Other guys, you got to be a little more quiet, a little bit more like, hey man, like what was your thinking there? And to me, I felt like I gravitated to how when I was there, Coach Fisher, the way he that he not reprimanded, but like coach really like why he would always say like why and you're just like you think like
your Jimbo?
but like say like I would he'd want to kick deep left and I wouldn't get it all the way there and he'd come up and like you hope like our team covers, but if they don't, he'd be like, why'd you kick it there? And you're just like, I know, like, I'm sorry, coach. Like, I didn't, get it right where you needed it, but I know I understand. But like at the end of the day, we're wanting an ultimate goal. I want to be as best as I can be, and I know you're just trying to. He would always say, "I'm coaching the player I know you can be. I'm not coaching the player you are right now." So when I heard that, I was like, "Tell me whatever you want." Like, you know what I mean? Like you understand. And he would always say, I've been 27 or no, I've been 21. I've been 20. You guys haven't been 47. You guys haven't been 48. So, he has the experience. I bought in, but yeah, what you said about Norvell, I mean, that's recruiting right there at its finest.
Roberto, describe how the smack talk changes from early on to the end of the game when one side starts dominating in a rivalry game.
In the beginning, it's both sides, da 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 da, right? And some guys use that as just to try to get into people's heads. This is funny. I remember Jalen Ramsey used to when he would go up and face wide receivers, he'd look up their Instagram and find like their girlfriend or someone, and he'd be like, yo, like I slid into your girl's DMs or like, what's your girl do? And then like they're just like like that's like real trash talk, not just like, oh, I'm better than you, like you suck, blah blah blah. Like that's really like the mental warfare, and it's really whatever edge you can get. But at the end of the day, your playmaking abilities, what you do on the field, is going to do the most talking. So there was guys that like a Rashad Green that wouldn't say a word, but he would just show it on the field. And honestly, that almost like affects you more if you're the opposing team, where you're like, dang man, I'm talking smack to this guy, he's not talking smack to me, and he's still beating me. Like, but after you put a couple points on them and you dominate them, they'll start the talking gets to a minimum, and after the game they'll be like, hey man, good game man, like I tried to get in your head, but it's all part of the game. But hey, that's why we play football, and that's why you love it.
You don't talk about I laughed at Tyreek Stevenson, the Miami DB, who's like a former 5-star, top 40 recruit, was at Georgia, transferred to Miami, talking trash to CJ Campbell, a walk-on running back, while his team is trailing 38-3 when he pushed him out of bounds after Campbell picked up a first down, and Campbell scored a touchdown on the next play. I was like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to the Miami problem. That to me
exactly
reads as kind of some of the late era Jimbo Fisher teams, talking trash when it's not validated, when it's not really your place to do it. I mean, it's
If I'm a coach and I see that and we're down that bad and you're still, I'm like, dude, just play, run the right plays, like make some plays, and then you can trash talk, right? Like, I don't know.
You say Rashad doesn't trash talk. I'll never forget at Clemson, after I think he scored like one of the touchdowns late in the half, and he threw up. He didn't say a word. He just threw up a hush sign right at them. That was like for Rashad to go that far. That's when you knew
that's big. Yeah, that's when you know. Yeah,
night. I mean, it was from James Wilder showing up with the crop top, pulling his jersey all the way up so you could see his 12-pack.
Yeah,
the 12-pack. I'm underselling it. He had like a 25-pack, man. His abs had abs. Like it was crazy. It was that night was one of the best sporting memories of. I think I speak for FSU fans. Those who were there, you'll never forget it. And I think when we beat Auburn in the national title game, that was more relief to me than anything, was that we finally finished the season that we should have finished because we were the best team. Beating Clemson was the most exhilarating game that I've ever been to as a fan. Like, from the trash talk their fans gave us right before walking in, to College Game Day being there, to like them having the asterisk by one of their like division titles that they shared with FSU, and they wanted to share the title. So they put it up on their stadium, but it has like the asterisk,
Really?
Yeah, you never saw that?
No.
They shared one of the division titles with FSU. We beat them head to head, so we went to the title game that year. But they have it put on their stadium with a little star.
No, it's a paw. It's a little tiger paw.
A paw. I mean,
it's a paw.
The whole game. I'll never forget. Berto, you were playing that game, so you were down on the field. A fan walks in with a WWE title belt. I mean, it's a championship title belt, and he's standing there. And we hit that first touchdown to Kelvin, and my boy looked right over to him and said, "I want your effing belt." And so I walked over there to rip the belt off of that man. And by the end of it, that man had left at halftime. It was.
See, man, that's the energy you love to see, you love to hear. I mean, obviously, when I was playing, I didn't really like hear about all that, but like now that I'm, an alumni and I've gone to the games, and whoever it is, no matter like who's that quarterback or who's that wide receiver, you want to see them dominate, you want to see them succeed. They're obviously there for a reason, and it creates that energy, because whether it was back in 2013. Whether it's now, whether it's going to be in 10 years, we're always going to want to, root for our Noles, and that's the trash talking. That's what it comes with. So, but yeah, that's what kickstarted the process to win that national. After that, we were like, all right, we can beat whoever lines up in front of us.
One of my biggest regrets, especially from that time period, I was at FSU. I wasn't at that game. I was at FSU, a student, when that happened. I had a little too much. I enjoyed myself a little too much that night. I do not remember much of that night. It's pretty patchy. And like, it's like a shame that like that game, like an all-time FSU game, like I can appreciate the videos and I'll be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. But like most of that night's a blur. And that's really unfortunate.
I have a rule, Curt. I have a rule going as a fan. If you're drinking, you drink all the way up till about an hour and a half before the game. You sober up so you remember the game, and then you black out after. That's that. So you might not remember what happens after the game, but I promise you, it'll start coming back to you. The game will.
Rookie mistake.
Itself.
That's honestly
Rookie
a good.
mistake.
That's honestly a
You
good
have to have a
point.
system. That's all it is. You just
At least you had fun. At least you had fun, Curt.
All right, guys, let's move on. Florida State, number 23 in the college football playoff, 25th in the AP poll. Curt, I think you told me before we hit live that first time since 2016 FSU's in the college football playoff ranking. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the last one in 2016, right before they went to the Orange Bowl and beat Michigan. That was good. They were to because by 20 the college football playoff rankings don't come out until like what? I think this is only the second one. They don't come out until well into the season. So by the time that 2017 rankings rolled around, Florida State was pretty far removed from the college football playoff picture, shall we say? So yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. I think I was unsure because they weren't ranked in the coaches poll when that came out, and then they were ranked in the AP yesterday. I was kind of like interested. I think when you look at their resume, I think they deserve to be, especially what they've done. I mean, the last few weeks, and I mean the fact that all three of their losses are to teams that were ranked last week until Wake Forest fell out after losing to NC State.
Yeah. So we move forward. I guess the next question I wanted to ask you guys was, do we think that the Noles can finish the rest of the season undefeated? And that means you go to Cuse, you've got to knock them off in the Dome, then you got Louisiana and Florida. I mean, it's starting to look like a lot bigger of a possibility than it did. And if this team wins 10 games, guys, at the bowl win, and you get to 10, I mean, what else could you say other than this has been a rousing success of a season for Mike Norvell?
Go ahead, Curt.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, they're almost halfway there. I think it's interesting. I did a radio hit today up in Syracuse for with Brent Axe. He's coming on Nole Your Enemy this week. He'll be the guest because we don't actually have a rivals guest for that. But yeah, his first question to me was, were these last two games more about Florida State or more about the teams they were playing? And I thought it was a really good question because I think that it can be asked that. I think anytime you do that to an opponent, it's at least somewhat about you. But was that just about? I mean, those are pretty two lifeless teams right now. I think Georgia Tech's got a little more life than Miami. Might beat them this weekend. I think this weekend will tell us a lot on that. I mean, I think there's plenty of reason to feel confident in Florida State going into Syracuse, definitely compared to a few weeks ago. And I mean, I think Vegas agrees. They're favored by about a touchdown, or at least they were when they opened. I actually don't know what the spread is right now. But yeah, I think it's most definitely possible. I like their chances this weekend. Syracuse's run defense has been pretty rough lately. Clemson ran all over them. Notre Dame ran all over them. I think Pitt kind of had a decent amount of yards even without their leading running back, who was probably the all ACC running back. And so I think there's reason to think Florida State can too, as long as they kind of do what they did early this season. Don't read any headlines. Stay focused. Don't dwell on that Miami game too long. I think Florida's the toughest game left on the schedule. The rivalry, like we said, rivalries can get weird. I don't think Florida's great. I think Florida's defense, frankly, is pretty bad. But a guy like Anthony Richardson, anytime he's on a team, there's that chance where he can just go otherworldly. He is a raw talent, but a super talent. He is raw, but he is very talented. So, but that being said, I think Florida State's a more well-rounded team. I think, especially with the game being at Doak, I like Florida State's chances. And so I feel better about it than I did 2 games ago.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think we can finish the rest of the season undefeated. I mean, it's good that we played a game like this heading into Syracuse, and Syracuse is also 6-3. I mean, if I just hammer, and I've been saying this, early on in the season, in the podcast, saying like, just playing, our opponent has no face, like playing against ourselves, right? Making sure we don't make any mistakes because we have the talent spread out at all positions, right? And when one position group makes a mistake, the other position group will make up for it, and that's how you kind of maneuver the game, right? O lineman misses, or doesn't pick up a block, the running back was there to help him, right? We all help each other out, and we're all dimensional. All phases, we know that we can peak and we can compete against anyone. We're there, right? There's no position group where it's like, oh, there, like even if we're at our best, like we're not, we don't contend. So if we can play the not the perfect game, but an efficient game. We'll make plays, right? We have guys that can make plays. So, like you said, Curt, don't dwell on, this win too long. Don't get caught up in the hype or like, oh, Florida State's back up top. We're good. They're this. Where we go into Syracuse kind of just overconfident, and then, we get smacked in the mouth early, and then it's like, oh shoot, back to, trying to climb back, right? Let's keep this rolling where we start, foot to the metal, score, and keep scoring.
Yeah, I mean, guys, the Syracuse team, defensively, Curt said it. I mean, they're beat up a little bit, but it's still going to be a tough game. It's always been kind of a tough game up there for FSU at Syracuse. There have been some battles, and you know what? That's a Cuse team that I think Dino Babers has at least believing in their who they are and what they're trying to do. If Schrader doesn't play, it makes a big difference. If they're injured, then it's going to be tough. I think FSU again, though, like we've already echoed, has to go there and play the game and not the opponent, right? Like you guys said, this is about us now. I mean, it's really not about the teams remaining. You're better than the next three opponents, and the only way you lose is if you don't go there and play your game. And if you don't protect the ball, if you have too many penalties, if you make critical mistakes in big situations, you could fall to Florida or to Syracuse. But if this program is ascending at the rate that we think it is, and it's continuing to make progress, then you need to take care of business. 9 wins is there. And I think, you should put yourself in a position to make a big bowl game. So I think this week, Curt, you'll be there in attendance. You'll be covering. What are the three things that you're looking forward to most?
Non-football, I'm looking forward to Dinosaur Barbecue because I've heard very good things about Dinosaur Barbecue up there and some other restaurants as well. I'm excited. It's my first time in Syracuse. When it comes to the game, I am not looking forward to another night game. It's been a pretty brutal year for that. Those are some late nights when you're working those. But on the field, I'm looking to see how Florida State responds. I mean, I think we'll see if Garrett Schrader plays, especially if Garrett Schrader plays. I think this is another chance for the defense. I mean, Syracuse had, I think, 9 points against Pitt, and I don't think Pitt's especially good with their backup quarterback, Carlos Del Rio Wilson in. So if they don't have Schrader, we'll see if that's the case. I think it's another chance for the defense to really carry over the momentum it's built through the last 2 games, or really almost entirely. Like you played, I feel like 2 back-to-back pretty good games. I mean, this last one really good. And then offensively, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what they can do with the run game. I think Syracuse is a little better coached than Miami right now. I think they might adjust a little better. I don't know if you'll have quite as much success with counter, but yeah, I think it will be an interesting test for them. I think against a well-coached team that, like you said, has maybe hit a bit of a wall there. And if they can make a statement early, if they can have success on third downs, I mean, they're converting 50% of third downs this year. I don't think I knew that FSU is until today. That's impressive. It's been a
huge.
while, I feel like, since that was the case. If they can keep doing that, keep that Syracuse defense on the field, it could be another long night. Maybe not as lopsided a win, but maybe a win that you can coast to.
We opened as a 7-point road favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, it just tells you, like, what Caesars Sports, like what the odds are in Vegas. And honestly, I mean, the way that we've been playing, we've progressed, every game. We had that tough 3-game stretch, but I think we I would take the spread. I mean, I mean, obviously I take money line 100%, but I think we'll cover against Syracuse. But like you said, right, the mentality, right, going in. But even then, right, we're a different team than what we were week 1. These 9 games. This team, these 9 games, yeah, they may be 9 weeks, but in the age of a team, and Coach Fisher used to always say this every year, you're never going to have these same guys that are with you right now in this moment of time after this year ends. Once this year ends, guys are going to leave, new guys are going to come in. It's going to be a totally different team. So every year it's a 1 year age life of those guys, in that locker room, playing together, practicing together, study hall, school, class, going out, that's the group, right? So it's been 9 weeks in a year lifespan, right? So they've grown up, they've bonded these 9 weeks, and I think they're a mature enough team where I'm confident that they're going to go in and do what they did in Miami and play efficient football, play mistake, error free, or at least the dumb penalty free. It's not going to be the perfect game, but it'll be efficient enough where we come out with a victory and we cover the spread. And I'm confident. I like them to cover. So we'll see what happens.
All right, I think that's a pretty good show for this evening. I think I want to thank all of you who asked questions on here. We're going to try and make First and Nole live again next week and continue to test this out. Those of you listening on the podcast, when it becomes available, the way we kind of recorded this, I think you will be, you would be confused if we didn't let you know that it was live and in video and that we took questions. So we encourage you to watch us next week on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and it'll also stay as a podcast for those of you who want to listen on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever else you get your favorite podcasts. So want to appreciate, again, those of you listening to us here. For Roberto Aguayo and for Curt Weiler, I'm Ariya Massoudi saying so long. You've been listening and watching First and Nole.